My dear friends, how you doing? You got Gord here. Let me just adjust this just a tiny bit more that way. How you doing? It's Sunday. It's Weedy Weekend number 102? 102. Isn't that wonderful? Anyways, that's wonderful to me. Whether it's wonderful to you or not, I don't know. But we're here to discuss this week in cannabis news, usually with a Canadian tilt, and lately always starting with a discussion on the up and coming recreational legalization in Canada. First, cheers with a coffee. And let's have a look at this. I just want to start this with a little bit of product. Look at that. That is, I've shown before CBD crystalline. This is CBD isolate. Still the same end result, CBD crystals. Those crystals are 99.3% CBD. Not CBD acidic, CBD. Therefore, those crystals can be dabbed, they can be eaten, they can, not that's it, they can be put on flour, they can, such a variety of things to do. I put a little bit, a grain worth, maybe 0.02 of a mil onto a bit of chocolate, and the swelling of my leg went down. For those who don't know, I've got a broken foot. Broke it a week and a day ago. The pain is mostly subsided. A little bit of swelling now and then, and when that happens, that's when the pain rises. Now, let's move on to our day of news. Sorry, I'm waking up. I want to get out of here today. It's going to be a really hot day. I want to get into the mountains, and the only way to do that is get this story done, get these stories done, get these things processed and up to all of you. So, the first story is something along the lines of Canadian legalization. Is the fact that, as I've said, none of these dispensary raids are not resulting in what was promised back in 2016, a year ago, when Project Claudia hit Ontario and they shut down some 23, I think, different dispensaries. And lawyers for the dispensaries and for us, the people, were saying how the government is going to get challenged so much. They should not have done this. What a waste of taxpayers' money. And the city came back. The chief of police said, we discussed this with the prosecutor's office over and over. These are all prosecutable and will result in criminal records and all that, which we argue against. Even so, making a criminal of somebody for doing something that in a year from now will be legal is absolutely ridiculous. But even worse is trying to make them into a criminal, putting them through court proceedings and putting them through arrest and jail and all that stuff, only to have, as I reported in Weedy Weekend 101, only to have over 50% of the charges thrown away. This is one specific one that actually went to court, and I want to spell it out for you. I love this. Justice Colin Westman. I hope he runs for office, and I hope that that if he does, that the elite never get to him, because here's a person with good thinking. Justice Colin Westman said, oh, sorry, a couple, quite a name, Noor and Shady. Noor is the lady, Shady is the man, Luca is their last name, Luca. Justice Colin Westman, wow, said Noor and Shady Luca committed an offense of compassion when they operated a medical marijuana dispensary in Uptown Waterloo and sold pot to adults with medical marijuana licenses. I've said this before. When they're doing it correctly and with good heart, they're not going to jail. Westman described the couples as activists in favor of their fellow human beings, and running a marijuana dispensary was essentially just civil disobedience. Westman agreed the couple broke the law, and finding of guilt was issued, but the pair will not have a criminal record. Quoting Justice Colin Westman, "You are not going to be compromised in my court, not for circumstances like this." I love that. Noor Luca, 30, owned and operated the Waterloo dispensary, which sold marijuana out of a second-floor business on King Street. They had opened their dispensary in April 2015 and were busted by Waterloo Regional Police 4 months later. Both pleaded guilty. Shady Luca was arrested with more than $10,000 cash in the trunk of his car. Another 4,000 Canadian money and $18.29 US cash was found, plus a money counter. The Crown was seeking convictions and $10,000 in fines. Defense lawyer representing Luca said the judge was fair to the accused and ruled that running the dispensary was an act of compassion. Of course it is. This is the point that I've been making for 2 years. Dispensaries exist because people need them. People are sick. If I've ever realized the true need of a dispensary, it was when I broke my foot. I have a hard enough time making my own medicine. I need strong concentrated both CBD and THC in my system. I take pills, CBD pills, which I can't make, and I can't get from any dispensary, any LP. But I also make my own rosin by buying flour, squishing it. When I broke my foot, I could no longer, at least for a while, I'm more mobile now, but for a while I couldn't even make my own rosin. Thank goodness for the dispensary. I buy their rosin. That's the compassion, is people are sick, and there are people so much worse than me. People dying of cancer that need that super strong medicine that they cannot get on the market that was created by our government. We need a market that's for the people, not created by a government, which I'm about to talk about as well on one more story down. So I've given you the story. I've read a fair amount to you. It will be below. I would love to hear your comments on this. As I've said, the more we look at it, the more the courts are not supporting this police movement. And neither should you, Ontario residents. Don't let it happen. Next story. Illegal cannabis dispensaries are seen as safe and reliable. University of British Columbia study. A really good study and a really big study. I'm just going to read some of it to you because I think it's really, really important. And maybe to slow me down a bit, I just talked about rosin. I'm going to grab a little bit of God Bud RHO directly from MMJ Total Healthcare. Oh, my back hurts. Peace and cheers to love and harmony. Because I'm nervous. I don't usually have much THC during the day, but after this broken foot, that changed because I needed more. Anyways, here we are. This study by the University of BC, medical cannabis patients who use illegal Canadian dispensaries, instead of turning to other legal, the licensed producer, and black market sources, they do so because they feel safe at these shops and like that they have reliable supplies of the specific strains they want, according to new research from UBC. Riel Kapler, a PhD student and the study's lead author, said the results can give Ottawa and provincial governments an idea of what consumers want as we look toward legalizing the drug sometime next year. Quoting, "We've seen that dispensaries are part of the legal system in other jurisdictions. In the states where they have legalized cannabis for recreational purposes, and we've had a natural experiment, in a way, going on in Canada for the past 20 years. So we're hoping that this research can help inform governments as they consider what distribution will look like after legalization and take into account the patient and the user's perspective." This is where we need to go. As you're going to see and I've alluded to the next story once already, I'm alluding to it again because these segue into each other, is that our government officials are not the ones who should be making these decisions. They're the ones that have to make them on behalf of us, but they shouldn't be making them for us. They should be making them on behalf of us. Find out what we want and then go for it, not what the government wants, because the government has said over and over and over they want to get rid of the black market system when it comes to cannabis. Okay, then you have to supply to the needs of the people. No matter what they do, dispensaries won't go away because they are needed. And so is a abundant market, a free market. Let people sell and buy as long as you set the rules that they sell and buy by. We should not be in a position where companies have to apply for a license from the government after they've already gotten local business license, all that kind of stuff. No, let the market decide. This is a great story. This is from the Globe and Mail. I usually don't support the Globe and Mail, but it's when I bring you a story, I don't support the source. I always look at the source just to see, should I question it a bit. And in today's world, it doesn't matter who the source is. Question it all. Even if it comes from me, yes, question it. And now the story that I wanted to bring you. Suspense. A craft cannabis industry brought to you by the feds. Yes, from cannabislifenetwork.com. Okay, let me just read this first part because I think it says more than what I can say in my rambling way. You can't have a craft cannabis industry when the rules are written and influenced by federal bureaucrats who have likely never seen a cannabis plant, let alone know how to grow one. Just look at the debates in the House of Commons during the first reading of this bill. Someone thought you needed a toaster oven to use cannabis. I alluded to that. These are the people who are supposed to represent us. A silly, impractical idea that barely worked in the 19th century, let alone in 2017. And yet they can't even figure out basic facts. At any rate, there's still a case to be made for civil disobedience even after they legalize, and I agree. In fact, the case can be extended beyond cannabis and into the realm of commerce in general. Since when did a nation of free peoples need to apply to the government for business licenses? It may be pretty Western-style tyranny, but it's tyranny nonetheless. And it's tyrannical. Anybody should, the government of course has to have certain rules for regulated commodities. But just like craft beer, once those regulations are met, the rest is nonsensical. If they can produce and sell, they should be able to produce and sell within the rules that are set. So quit trying to, I really want our government to let go of managing this industry and just regulate it. Find out the regulations that work. There are hundreds of, if not thousands of opportunities to learn from already established networks out there and do the best practices and then adjust as we go along. As this says, there will be, if not done properly, civil disobedience against these laws if these laws come up tyrannical and ridiculous. Okay, that's that story. I never know my time anymore. I'm using a different product. Now there is 4 ways edibles can hit you. 4 ways edibles can hit you faster. Okay, from Leafly.com. I love stories from Leafly. And they talk about the 4 different methods and how to bring about the quicker hit. And the very first thing they talk about is sublingual tinctures. Anytime you can put oil under your tongue, if it's already carboxylated, you can get THC under your tongue, it will hit you, and it'll hit you rather quickly. Just like toking, but probably more. The longer you leave it there, the more is absorbed and quickly, bypassing the liver, quickly converting into what you need. It's quick, it's efficient, it doesn't last as long. Even those pills, I take a THC pill every night. I take it at 5, it hits me by 7. And because I have strong tolerance, it doesn't hit me very hard, but it keeps my body from hurting at night. And it helps me sleep. If I wanted to hit me faster, I just open up the capsule and empty it out under my tongue. Tastes horrible. Tastes horrible. Does the same thing, but hits me much faster, much stronger. I personally don't like it. That's too strong. I like sublingual to be light and just a way to get through a moment. I like having tinctures, but I like them for like when I'm traveling and I just need to relax a bit. A few drops, let it hit, relax, then drive. You know what I mean? Anyways, sublingual. There are infused beverages, and I never knew this. I thought no matter how you eat it, it's going to take a long time to hit you. But I've made my own tea, and whenever I take the tea, I get double hit. I get an immediate high, and then later I get another one after what has processed down to my stomach goes through my liver. It's because I didn't know. I didn't know about sublingual, and thereby, if you're drinking tea, the more you leave that tea or an infused beverage in your mouth, the more it's going to hit you up front and less it's going to hit you through the liver. If you need me to go further on any of this, say below and I'll do a pondering about it. Most of you know what those are. Specially formulated edibles. There are also solid edibles that are being formulated to hit you quicker. One such example comes from a company called 1906, a Colorado-based producer of specifically formulated chocolates intended to deliver fast-acting high. The company claims the effects of these rapid delivery edibles can be felt as soon as 15 to 20 minutes after consumption. I'd like to know more. If you'd like to know more, read more. And increased metabolism. If you increase your metabolism, if you run, if you jog, if you get busy, it's going to hit you quicker. If you sit around, it's going to hit you slower. And that's the story. Oh, and we have one last story, which is very much based on personal need. A week ago, as I said, I broke my foot, and I broke it pretty bad. It's the first broken bone. I broke my neck, but that's a fracture of the C2, not the same sort of thing. And I've broken a couple of ribs. Again, not the same sort of thing. You don't have a cast. You're difficult, but you're mobile. Broken bones, much different, especially when you're in your late 50s. You know, you worry about your health. But I'm less worried because I read this story. It's from biotrack.com. Biotrack THC. It's a very good story. and it's very, very technical again. It is how THC and CBD, but mostly cannabidiol, CBD, how it works on strengthening bones, and that the studies have actually shown that after a bone break, if CBD is applied properly, the bone is actually stronger than pre-break. So you actually increase the strength of your foot or leg or whatever, that bone, through the use of CBD. It's an incredible story. I'm just going to read one part because it's important to understand that there's a lot of people say, yeah, study, okay, but remember that people tend to believe, even some of us tend to believe some parts of the government when you shouldn't believe much of anything, if anything. So how reliable is the evidence that this is what it is? Is it conclusive or inconclusive? From a biological perspective, the finding is rather significant because the research was conducted in a controlled environment under the supervision of 18 scientists from 3 different countries, members of the Institute for Biomechanics from Zurich and Sweden's Lund University Department of Biomedical Engineering and Department of Orthopedics, collaborated with the Israeli team to map the biomechanical interaction and effects of cannabis ligands, CBD and THC, on the skeletal system. This is a really in-depth study, a really scientific study, and they are not... I like this about these scientists because it seems the scientist gets behind a thought lately, and I don't like that. I don't trust a lot of science anymore. I think science has become the new media, a new way of trying to prove something that's unprovable. Science isn't supposed to prove, it's just supposed to report on things, and that's why I like this story. This story is really in-depth. It talks about how it was performed, how the fractures were analyzed, how the CBD was analyzed, how they even developed the study. I like it, and then you can bring your opinions from it. My opinion, after reading this whole thing, my foot's going to be better than it was before. And thanks to CBD and its anti-inflammatory, this first week could have been horrible. Anytime the swelling started to increase, I took more CBD and it went down. It was a godsend for a broken foot with a cast. It was a godsend. And now to hear that being very rich in CBD, because I'm taking more than I normally do, and I normally was pretty high in CBD, will increase my chances of full and possibly better position after recovery than before. And we're at the end of Weedy Weekend 102. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I don't sound too stressed. I feel stressed. I feel like I've got so much stuff to do and I can't get it done. I'll work this out. I'll work this out. Peace and cheers, friends. Love and harmony. If you see somebody without a smile today, please give them one of yours. They need it. You can find another. Peace.